Welcome back to the Last Light Motel. This story is made for sleepless nights. No screams, no jump scares, no sudden loud sounds. Just quiet horror, rain, and a voice in the dark. You can close your eyes now. The room is ready. For a few seconds, there is only rain. It falls on the roof. It taps against the windows. It runs down the glass in thin, crooked lines. Somewhere beyond the motel, far out on the highway, a truck passes through the dark. Its lights move over the wet road and disappear behind the trees. The vacancy sign hums softly. The night is open, and the guestbook is waiting. 1. The road after midnight. I found the Last Light Motel a little after midnight, on a road that should have ended 20 miles earlier. That is the first thing I should tell you. The map on my phone had been clear. Route 17 ran north, crossed the river, and turned into a smaller county road near the old lumber town. After that, there were only farms, woods, and 2 gas stations, one of which had been closed for years. I had driven that route before. I knew the bends. I knew the bridge. I knew the place where the radio always lost signal for a few seconds. But that night, the road kept going. It was raining hard enough that the headlights looked soft around the edges. The wipers moved back and forth, never quite fast enough. Water collected in the grooves of the asphalt. The yellow lines appeared and disappeared under the shine. I had left the city late. Too late, really. I told myself it would be easier to drive at night. Less traffic, fewer trucks, a quiet road. I had done it before when work ran long and sleep felt far away. For the first hour, everything was ordinary. A drive-through coffee, a gas receipt folded into the cup holder, the low sound of the heater, a podcast I was not really listening to. Then the rain started. It came down first as a mist, then as a steady curtain. The sky closed in. The shoulders of the road vanished under water and fallen leaves. My phone signal dropped to 1 bar, then none. The voice on the podcast froze in the middle of a sentence and never came back. After that, I drove in silence. Not real silence, of course. Rain has its own sound. The tires made a soft hiss on the road. The engine hummed. The wipers clicked each time they changed direction. But it was the kind of silence that makes you aware of how alone you are. At 12:08, I passed the old Lumbertown sign. At 12:19, I should have reached the river bridge. I did not. The road continued straight between dark trees. No houses, no mailboxes, no farm lights. Just rain and black woods on both sides. I checked the dashboard clock. 12:24. The river bridge was still not there. I slowed down. Not because I was afraid. Not yet. I was only tired and a little irritated. I thought maybe I had missed a turn. Maybe construction had changed the route. Maybe the rain and the dark had made everything look unfamiliar. Then the motel sign appeared. At first, it was only a red blur through the rain. Then the letters came into focus. The Last Light Motel below it. A smaller neon word flickered on and off. Vacancy. The sign stood beside the road on 2 rusted metal poles. It leaned slightly to the right. Behind it sat a long, low building with 12 doors facing a wet parking lot. The roof was flat. The windows were narrow. A single vending machine glowed at the end of the walkway. The motel looked old, but not abandoned. A warm yellow light shone behind the office window. I remember feeling relieved. That is strange to admit now, But it is true. I did not feel warned. I did not feel watched. I did not feel as if I had found a place that should not exist. I only felt tired. I pulled into the lot and parked under the weak light of a lamp that buzzed more than it shone. There were 3 other vehicles in the parking lot. An old blue sedan, a white pickup with mud on the tires, a station wagon with a roof rack and no plates. Rain moved over their windshields. No one was inside them. I sat in my car for a moment, listening to the engine tick as it cooled. The motel office was only a few steps away, but I did not move right away. Something about the place made me want to take my time. It had the stillness of a room where someone had just stopped talking. Then I saw the man behind the office window. He was standing at the desk, looking down at a book. He did not wave. He did not seem surprised to see me. He turned a page slowly, as if he had been expecting me, and the room around him glowed in that soft, tired yellow light. I took my bag from the passenger seat, opened the car door, and stepped out into the rain. It was colder than it should have been. The sound of the rain grew louder when I left the car. It drummed on the roof of the motel, on the hood of my car, on the sign above the office door. Water ran along the edge of the walkway and fell in a steady line. I hurried to the office. A small bell rang when I opened the door. Not a sharp bell, a soft one, the kind that sounds like it has been ringing for many years. Inside, the office smelled like old carpet, coffee, and damp wood. There was a counter with a brass lamp, a wall of keys, a coffee machine with half a pot left in it, an old radio on a shelf, turned low enough that it was mostly static. And on the counter, open under the lamp, was the Guestbook. The man behind the desk looked up. He had gray hair combed neatly to one side. His shirt was white, but old at the collar. He wore a dark vest and a name tag that read, Harlan. He smiled the way people smile when they do not want to wake anyone. "Evening," he said. His voice was calm, very calm, almost too calm for someone working the front desk after midnight in a rainstorm. "Do you have a room?" I asked. He glanced at the rain behind me. "Most nights," he said. I waited for him to explain. He did not. "I only need one night," I said. "The road is bad. I think I missed the bridge." Harlan nodded, as if people missed bridges all the time. "That happens in heavy rain." "Does it?" He did not answer that directly. He turned the Guestbook toward me and placed a pen beside it. "Name, please. Then I will get you settled." I looked down at the page. The book was old, not antique in a polished way, but old from use. The leather cover was cracked. The pages were thick and slightly yellow. The handwriting on the open page came in many styles: neat, messy, slanted, small, hurried. Some entries had only names. Some had dates. Some had room numbers. Some had short notes. I saw one line that said, "Thank you for keeping the light on." Below that, another line said, "Could not find the highway in the morning." The words were written in blue ink that had bled slightly into the paper. I stared at them for a second longer than I should have. Harlan gently tapped the counter. "Long drive?" he asked. "Yes," I said. I wrote my name, Daniel Mercer. Then the date, October 18th. Then I paused, because the line above mine had the same date, October 18th. That did not seem strange at first. Of course, someone else could check in on the same night. But the handwriting above mine looked faded, not fresh. The name beside it was blurred by what might have been water. The room number was clear. 12. I looked at the wall of keys. Most hooks were empty. A few had keys hanging from them, each with a metal tag. Harlan reached without looking and took one. Room 12. He placed it in my palm. The key was colder than the air outside. Room 12 is at the far end, he said. Last door before the vending machine. I looked down at the tag. The number had been stamped into old brass. The edges were worn smooth by finger. Is there a room 13? I asked. I meant it as a joke, a tired joke, the kind people make in old motels. Harlan looked at me for a moment. Then he smiled again. Not for guests, he said. That was all. I should have asked what he meant. But I was tired, and the room key was in my hand, and the rain had made my sleeves damp. So I thanked him. Before I turned to leave, Harlan said, "Mr. Mercer." I looked back. His hand rested on the guestbook. "If anyone knocks tonight, you do not have to answer." I waited. He added, "Most guests sleep better when they remember that." It was said so softly that it did not feel like a warning. It felt like advice. I nodded once, not sure what to do with it, and stepped back into the rain. 2. Room 12. Room 12 was exactly what a tired driver hopes for and nothing more. A bed with a heavy brown blanket, a small table, a lamp, a television mounted in the corner, a dresser with 2 drawers, a bathroom with pink tile and a sink that dripped once every few minutes, a window facing the parking lot. The air smelled faintly of detergent and dust. I set my bag on the chair and turned on the lamp. The shade gave the room a warm, tired light. Not bright enough to wake you, not dark enough to make you nervous. The rain tapped steadily against the window. I stood there for a moment, just listening. The motel had that old building hum. Pipes in the walls, electricity in the lamp, water in gutters. A vibration so low you mostly felt it in the spaces between sounds. Outside, the vacancy sign flickered red across the glass. On, off, on, off. My car sat in the lot, wet and dull under the lamp. The blue sedan was still there. The white pickup was still there. The station wagon with no plates was still there. No one moved. I checked my phone. No service. That did not surprise me. Places like that often had poor signal. The room had a phone on the nightstand, though. A beige one with large buttons and a coiled cord. Beside it was a small card. "Welcome to the Last Light Motel office. Oh, emergency. 9 checkout. Leave key at desk before 11. At the bottom, in smaller print, someone had typed, "For your comfort, please do not open your door after 3:17 a.m. I stared at that line for a while. It looked official, not handwritten, not added later. It was printed in the same faded ink as the rest of the card. "Please do not open your door after 3:17 a.m. I almost laughed. It was such a specific time that it should have been funny. Instead, it made the room feel slightly cooler. I told myself it was part of the motel's atmosphere. Some places leaned into local legends. Maybe the Last Light had a little roadside horror gimmick. Old Guestbook. Strange rules. Room 13. Maybe people liked that. Maybe people came here for that. I took off my wet jacket and hung it over the chair. Then I sat on the edge of the bed and turned on the television. The screen glowed blue. No channels. I turned it off. The room became quiet again. I went to the bathroom, washed my face, and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked tired. My hair was flattened from the rain. My eyes were red from the drive. Behind me, The room reflected softly in the mirror. Bed, lamp, window, phone. For a second, I thought I saw the door move. Not open, not even shift. Just a change in the shadow under it, as if someone had walked past outside. I turned around. Nothing. Only the thin line of light beneath the door. I dried my face and listened. Rain, drip, hum. No footsteps. I turned off the bathroom light and went back into the room. That was when I noticed the guestbook page on the table. At first, I thought the motel had put a local guide in the room. Some places left binders with restaurant menus and maps. But this was not a binder. It was a single sheet of paper, folded once. I picked it up. It looked like it had been torn from the guestbook at the office. The paper was thick and yellowed. At the top, someone had written, Room 12. Below that, in careful handwriting, if you are reading this, you are probably tired. That helps. Tired people ask fewer questions. I put the paper down. Then I picked it up again. The handwriting was neat. Calm. The kind of handwriting a teacher might have. It did not look frantic. It did not look like a prank. I read on. Do not call the office unless the phone rings first. Do not look through the peephole after the second knock. If you hear rain stop all at once, count to 10 before breathing. If the clerk asks what name you checked in under, tell the truth. If he asks what name you will check out under, do not answer. I felt my face tighten. The room seemed very still. I looked at the phone. It sat on the nightstand, quiet and beige, its coiled cord making a lazy loop beside it. I looked at the door. There was no peephole, only a brass chain lock and a deadbolt. I checked both. Locked. Then I looked back at the paper. At the bottom was one last line. Someone may knock before morning. It is all right not to be polite. I stood there with the note in my hand, listening to the rain. A car moved on the road beyond the motel. Its sound rose, passed, and faded. The note might have been a joke. It probably was a joke. But I folded it and placed it in the drawer of the nightstand, as if putting it away would make it less real. Then I turned off the lamp. The room did not become fully dark. The neon sign outside gave the walls a slow, red pulse. On, off, on, off. I lay down without changing clothes. The bed was firmer than I expected. The blanket was heavy. The pillow smelled faintly of bleach. I watched rain slide down the window. For a while, I almost slept. Then the phone rang. 3. The first call. It did not ring loudly. That is important. There was no harsh sound, no sudden shock. Just one soft mechanical ring in the dark. Then another. I opened my eyes. The room was red, then black, then red again. The phone rang a third time. I lay still. I remembered the note. Do not call the office unless the phone rings first. The phone had rung first. That made it feel as if answering was allowed, not safe, not wise. Only allowed. I reached for the receiver. The plastic was cold. I lifted it and held it to my ear. For a few seconds, I heard only static and rain. The same rain from outside, but thinner, as if it were falling somewhere far away. Then Harlan's voice came through. Mr. Mercer? Yes, I said, just checking that you found the room comfortable. His tone was ordinary. Front desk, ordinary. Late night, ordinary. The voice of a man who had made the same call many times. It's fine, I said. Good. A pause. In the background of the call, I heard paper moving. Did you find anything left behind? He asked. I looked toward the drawer, though the room was too dark to see it. A note, I said. That happens sometimes. From who? Guests. What guests? The ones who had the room before. I sat up slowly. Harlan, I said, is this some kind of theme motel? On the other end, he gave a soft laugh. Not mocking, not amused, only tired. People usually ask that first. What is this place? A motel, he said. Mostly. The rain pressed harder against the window. I rubbed my eyes. I think I'm just going to sleep, I said. That is best. He paused again. Then he said, if you hear anyone outside, there is no need to answer. The doors here are old, but they hold. Who would be outside? Sometimes people arrive after the office is closed. The office is open. You're there. Tonight, yes. I did not like the way he said that. The receiver hummed against my ear. Then Harlan said, do you remember the name you signed in with? I almost answered right away. Daniel Mercer. Of course I remembered. But the note came back to me. If the clerk asks what name you checked in under, tell the truth. If he asks what name you will check out under, do not answer. Daniel Mercer, I said. Good, Harlan said. More paper moved on his end. And what name will you be checking out under? I did not speak. The rain kept falling. On the phone, the static changed slightly. It rose and fell like breathing. Harlan? Yes? Why would you ask that? I ask all guests. I'm not answering that. That is perfectly all right. His voice did not change. You should try to sleep now, he said. The road is often clearer in the morning. Often? Good night, Mr. Mercer. The line went dead. I held the receiver a moment longer. Then I put it back on the cradle. The room felt different after that. Nothing had changed. The bed was still there. The window, the lamp, the door, the rain. But the space between objects felt wider. I turned on the lamp, went to the drawer, and took out the note. The paper seemed dry, but my fingers came away damp. I read the last line again. Someone may knock before morning. It is all right not to be polite. I folded it and put it on the table instead of back in the drawer. Then I checked the time. 1:03 a.m. I told myself there were less than 5 hours until dawn. I told myself I could sit up with the light on. I told myself I had slept in worse places. That was true, in a technical way. I had slept in airports. I had slept in cars. I had slept on a friend's couch while someone played music in the next room. But I had never slept in a place that seemed to be listening. At 1:17, something knocked on the wall. Not the door. The wall. 3 soft taps came from the side facing the next room. Tap, tap, tap. I turned my head. Room 11 was on that side. At least it should have been. The sound came again. Tap, tap, tap. Then a voice spoke through the wall. It was faint, a woman's voice. Are you awake? I did not answer. The motel hummed. The rain fell. The red sign pulsed at the window. The voice came again. I know you are awake. I looked at the wall. It was plain beige, with a framed print of a lake hanging slightly crooked. The print showed pine trees, calm water, and a canoe tied to a dock. It was the kind of art no one really sees. The woman on the other side tapped once more. I left something in your room, she said. Her voice was gentle, almost embarrassed. I only need to come in for a moment. I sat very still. Then I whispered, though I do not know why. There's no one here. The tapping stopped. A long minute passed. Then the woman said, that is what I said too. After that, there was only rain. 4. The page changes. I did not sleep. I lay with the lamp on and watched the wall until my eyes hurt. The woman did not speak again. No footsteps passed outside. No doors opened. The phone did not ring. At 2:04, I got up and looked through the curtains. The parking lot was still. Rain fell through the light of the sign. The cars were wet and dark. The blue sedan, the white pickup, the station wagon with no plates. But now there was a fourth car, a small green car I had not heard arrive. It was parked directly beside mine. Its headlights were off. Its windshield wipers were lifted, as if someone had raised them before a snowstorm. The windows were fogged from inside. I stared at it. Then a hand wiped a slow circle in the fog on the driver's side window. I stepped back from the curtain. My heart did not jump. It sank. That is the best way I can describe it. It felt as if something heavy had been lowered inside my chest. I waited. Nothing happened. After a while, I looked again. The green car was gone. The space beside mine was empty. No headlights, no engine, no sound. Just rain striking the pavement. I let the curtain fall. Then I noticed the guestbook page on the table. The folded note was still there. But now there was something written on the back. I know there had not been writing there before. I had turned it over. I had looked at both sides. Now, in the same careful handwriting, it said, "Do not trust a room just because it has 4 walls. Below it, smaller. Some rooms are only waiting." I picked up the paper. The ink looked fresh. I held it under the lamp and felt a strange calm spread over me. Not relief, not courage, something else. A tired kind of acceptance. The night was not going to become normal again just because I wanted it to. So I did the only thing that made sense at the time. I called the office. I forgot the rule. Or maybe I chose to forget it. Do not call the office unless the phone rings first. I lifted the receiver and pressed 0. The line clicked. Static filled my ear. Then a voice answered. Not Harlan. A woman. "Front desk," she said. Her voice was soft, with a slight crackle, as if coming through an old radio. "I need to speak to Harlan," I said. There was a pause. Then the woman said, "Harlan went home." I looked at the door. He was just there. "He goes home when it rains." "It is raining now." "Yes," she said. I waited for more. None came. "Who is this?" I asked. "The night clerk." Harlan said he was the night clerk. That sounds like him. The static shifted. I heard behind her voice the faint sound of pages turning. "I found a note," I said. "In the room?" "Yes." "Then it is for you." It changed. They do that when they need to. I closed my eyes. "This isn't funny." "No," the woman said. "It usually is not." I sat down on the bed. "What am I supposed to do?" "Sleep if you can." "I can't. Most people cannot the first time." "The first time?" She did not answer. Instead, she said, "What room are you in?" 12. The line became very quiet. Then she asked, "Are you sure?" I looked at the key on the table. The brass tag read, 12. "Yes." "Can you see the vending machine from your window?" I stood and looked through the curtain again. The vending machine glowed at the far end of the walkway. "Yes." "Good," she said. "Why is that good?" "If you can see the vending machine, you are still on the front side." "What does that mean?" "It means you should not go looking for the back stairs." "There are back stairs?" "Not from the front side." I pressed my fingers against my eyes. "Listen to me," I said. "I'm leaving. I'm going to get in my car and go. That is allowed before 3:17. I looked at the clock. 2:31. The woman continued. "But if the road brings you back, do not be rude to the clerk. He takes it personally. What happens at 3:17? The woman breathed into the phone. Not a sigh, just a soft breath. Checkout changes. The line went dead. I kept the receiver to my ear until the static stopped too. Then I put it down. I had 46 minutes. That seemed like enough time to leave a motel. It did not seem like enough time to understand one. I put on my jacket. It was still damp. I picked up my bag, took the key, and walked to the door. My hand stopped on the deadbolt. The woman's voice came back in my mind. That is what I said too. I unlocked the door. Rain sound rushed in before the door was even open. The walkway outside was empty. Yellow lights buzzed above each room. Water fell from the roof in shining strings. I stepped out and shut the door behind me. The air smelled like wet pavement and pine trees. My car was across the lot, maybe 30 feet away. It looked farther. I walked quickly, but did not run. The key to my car was in my hand. I pressed the unlock button. Nothing happened. I pressed it again. No lights flashed. No click. No chirp. I was close enough to see the rainwater sliding down the windows. I tried the driver's door. Locked. I looked through the glass. My car was empty. But there was a motel key lying on the driver's seat. A brass tag. Room 12. I looked down at my hand. My motel key was still there. The same number, the same worn edges. For a few seconds, the rain seemed to fall slower. Then the motel office door opened behind me. A warm rectangle of light spread across the wet walkway. Harlan stood there, one hand on the doorframe. "Road's not good tonight," he called softly. I turned toward him. "I want to check out." He nodded. "Of course." I looked back at my car. The key on the seat was gone. When I tried the door again, it opened. That should have made me leave faster. Instead, I stood there, one hand on the handle, listening to the rain, feeling the motel behind me. It felt like a room with its eyes closed. I got in the car and started the engine. It turned over at once. The clock on the dashboard read 2:36. I backed out of the space and drove toward the exit. The tires hissed through puddles. The vacancy sign passed on my right. The road opened ahead, black and wet and shining. I turned left. I drove for 7 minutes. No bridge, no houses, no signs, only trees. At 2:43, the red glow appeared through the rain. The Last Light Motel. Vacancy. I slowed without meaning to. My car rolled past the sign and into the parking lot. The blue sedan was there. The white pickup was there. The station wagon was there. My old parking space was empty. Harlan stood in the office window, looking down at the guestbook. I drove past the motel without stopping. The road curved left. For 3 minutes, there were trees. Then the motel sign appeared again. The Last Light Motel. Vacancy. This time, the word vacancy did not flicker. It stayed steady, red and patient. 5. The second check-in. I do not know how many times I passed the motel. 3 times. Maybe 4. Maybe more. The rain made each mile look like the one before it. The clock moved normally. The fuel gauge dropped. The heater blew warm air against my hands. Everything in the car behaved as if the world outside had not folded itself into a loop. At 3:02, I parked in the same space under the buzzing lamp. My hands were shaking, but not badly. I turned off the engine. For a minute, I stayed in the car and watched the office. Harlan was still there. He did not wave. He did not hurry me. He turned another page in the guestbook. When I went inside, the bell rang softly. The office was warm, and smelled of coffee. Harlan looked up. "Evening," he said. I stared at him. "I was here." He nodded. "You still are." I left. "That happens." I drove away. "Yes." He came back. He folded his hands on the counter. "Also happens." I wanted to get angry. It would have helped to be angry. Anger gives the world shape. It makes things feel like problems that can be pushed through. But the office was too calm for anger. The lamp was too warm. The rain too steady. Harlan too still. "What is this place?" I asked. "A motel," he said again. "Mostly?" This time he almost smiled. "Mostly." I looked at the guestbook. The page was open to my name. Daniel Mercer, October 18th, room 12. Below it was a blank line, then another, then another. I noticed something I had not noticed the first time. Some names appeared more than once. Not close together, not on the same page, but repeated. Eli Barnes, May 3rd, room 8. Then, farther down, Eli Barnes, May 4th, room 8. Then again, Eli Barnes, May 5th, room 8. Other names had notes beside them. Slept through the knocking, left before dawn, asked about the bridge, returned key without name, still on property. I touched the edge of the book. The paper felt warm. "Who writes these notes?" I asked. "Sometimes guests," Harlan said. "Sometimes the book." I pulled my hand back. The old radio crackled on the shelf. For a second, a voice came through the static. "Room 12 is awake." Then it faded. Harlan reached behind him and took a key from the wall. "Room 12. He placed it on the counter. "You are already checked in," he said. "But some guests feel better doing it twice." "I do not feel better." "No." He looked at the clock on the wall. 3:09. "You should be in your room," he said. "What happens at 3:17? "Nothing that needs your help." The clock ticked. I looked at the office door, then at the rain, then at the hallway behind the counter. There had not been a hallway before. I was sure of that. Behind Harlan, where earlier there had been only a wall with keys, there was now an open doorway. Beyond it, a narrow hall stretched into yellow light. The carpet was red and worn down the center. Doors lined both sides. Each door had a brass number: 2, 4, 6, 8, only even numbers. The hall went farther than the motel building should allow. "Is that the back side?" I asked. Harlan did not turn around. "Yes." "The woman on the phone told me not to look for the back stairs." "Good advice." "Who was she?" He looked almost sad then. "Depends on when you ask." The clock ticked again. 3:12. I picked up the key. "I want a different room," I said. "No, you do not." "How do you know?" "Because room 12 still knows your name." The hallway behind him seemed longer now. At the far end, a light went out. Then another. Then another. One by one, the yellow lights in the hall turned off, moving toward the office like a slow breath being drawn in. Harlan said, "Mr. Mercer." I looked at him. "You should go to your room." I did. Not because I trusted him. Because the office no longer felt like the safest place. Outside, the rain had softened. It was still falling, but lighter now, almost gentle. I walked quickly along the covered walkway. The doors passed on my left. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. My door waited at the end. The vending machine glowed beside it. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and shut it behind me. Then I locked the deadbolt, then the chain. The clock on the nightstand read 3:15. I took off my wet shoes and sat on the bed. 3:16. Rain tapped the glass. The motel hummed. At 3:17, the room phone rang once. Only once. Then someone knocked on the door. softly, 3 times. 6. Do not answer. There are knocks that ask permission. There are knocks that announce arrival. There are knocks that apologize for waking you. This was none of those. It was gentle, but it had no question in it. Tap, tap, tap. I sat on the bed with my hands on my knees. The note lay on the table under the lamp. Someone may knock before morning. It is all right not to be polite. I did not move. The knocking came again. Tap, tap, tap. Then a voice spoke from the other side of the door. It was my voice. Not exactly as I hear it when I speak. More like the voice I hear on recordings. A little flattered, a little unfamiliar. "Daniel," it said. The room seemed to listen with me. "Daniel, open the door." I closed my eyes. The voice outside sighed. "Come on, it's raining." My hands tightened on my knees. "I left my key inside," it said. That was something I would say. That small, practical complaint. That tired tone. That hint of embarrassment. I almost stood. Then the voice added, "Room 12 is yours, right?" I did not breathe for a moment. Outside, the thing using my voice waited. Then it knocked again. This time, not 3 taps. 4. Tap, 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 tap. A whisper came from the wall beside the bed. "Do not count them." I turned my head slowly. The woman's voice was back. "Room 11. Or the wall. Or wherever she was. Do not count after 3, she said. That is how they know you are listening." I looked at the wall. The framed lake picture hung crooked. "Who are you?" I whispered. There was a pause. Then she said, "I was tired too." Outside the door, my voice said, "Daniel, please." The please was the worst part. It sounded real. It sounded cold and wet and alone. I did not answer. The clock read 3:19. "Do you have a car?" the woman in the wall asked. "Yes," I whispered. "Did it bring you back?" "Yes." "Then do not try again until morning." "What happens in the morning?" "Sometimes the road remembers where it was." "Sometimes." She did not answer. The thing outside knocked again. Tap, tap, tap. Then it said, "Harlan said you would help me." I looked at the phone. It did not ring. The woman in the wall whispered, "They use polite words first." "What do they use after?" "Names." The thing outside said, "Daniel Mercer." Hearing my full name through the door made the air seem thinner. The lamp flickered once. The rain stopped. Not slowed, not softened. Stopped. The whole world outside went silent at the same time. No rain, no highway, no hum beyond the room. The note on the table seemed brighter under the lamp. If you hear rain stop all at once, count to 10 before breathing. I realized I had been holding my breath. I counted in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4. Outside the door, the thing with my voice whispered, "I know you are counting." 5, 6, 7. The wall beside the bed made a soft cracking sound, like old wood settling. 8, 9, 10. I breathed. The rain returned all at once. It struck the roof and window and pavement in a soft rush. The thing outside the door was gone. At least, it did not knock again. I sat for a long time. The woman in the wall said nothing. Finally, I whispered, "Are you still there?" The answer came after several seconds. "For now." "Can you get out?" I thought I did. What does that mean? It means I woke up in my car 20 miles north of here. Sunlight on my face, coffee in the cup holder, the road dry. I thought I had dreamed the motel. My mouth felt dry. What happened? I found the key in my coat. I looked at my key on the table. She continued. "I drove for 3 months before I saw the sign again. Not every road, not every rain. But eventually, you came back. I think I never fully left. I listened to the rain. What room are you in? She laughed softly. It was not a happy laugh. It was not bitter either. It was almost kind. Most nights, she said, I am in the wall. The lamp hummed. I looked at the clock. 3:33. Why are you helping me? I asked. Someone helped me once. Did it work? No. The simple way she said it made the room feel colder. But I slept a little, she added. That mattered. I lay back slowly, still wearing my damp jacket. The pillow was cool, my eyes stayed open. The woman in the wall began to speak again. Not warnings this time. A story. She told me about the night she arrived at the Last Light Motel. She had been driving home from her mother's house. Rain on the windshield. Low fuel. A headache behind her eyes. She checked in because the sign looked warm and the road ahead looked empty. She got room 6. There was a note in the drawer. There was a phone call. There was a knock. She did not tell me everything. Maybe she could not. Maybe the rules are different depending on the room. Her voice was quiet and slow. The wall made her sound far away. I did not mean to sleep. But somewhere between her talking about the vending machine and a man in a brown coat who asked for directions to a town that had burned down, I closed my eyes. For a while, there was only rain, and the voice in the wall, and the red light of the sign moving softly over my face. 7. Morning, or something like it. I woke to gray light. The lamp was still on. The rain had thinned to a mist. My jacket was dry. For a few seconds, I did not remember where I was. Then the room came back. The phone, the note, the wall, the knocking, the voice that sounded like mine. I sat up too quickly and felt dizzy. The clock on the nightstand read 7:42. Morning. Real morning, maybe. The parking lot outside looked washed clean. Puddles reflected the pale sky. The vacancy sign was off now. Without the red glow, the motel looked smaller, older, almost harmless. The blue sedan was gone. The white pickup was gone. The station wagon was still there. My car waited under the lamp. I checked my phone. 1 bar, then 2. A notification appeared from my sister. Did you make it home? It had been sent at 12:51 a.m. I stared at the message. Then another came through. Call me when you wake up. Sent at 6:12. I almost cried when I saw the signal. Not because I was safe, not yet, but because the world outside the motel had not entirely disappeared. I packed quickly. Shirt, charger, toothbrush, receipt, the folded note. I put the note in my jacket pocket. Then I picked up the motel key. Room 12. It felt warmer now. I unlocked the door and stepped outside. The morning air smelled like wet leaves and coffee. For the first time, I heard birds. The office window glowed softly. Harlan stood behind the counter, writing in the Guestbook. I walked toward him. The walkway seemed normal in daylight. Doors, windows, peeling paint, rusted chairs outside a few rooms. The vending machine buzzed quietly. When I opened the office door, the bell rang. Harlan looked up. Good morning, Mr. Mercer. His voice was the same as before, calm, polite, tired. I'm checking out, I said. He nodded. Of course. I placed the key on the counter. He did not pick it up right away. Did you sleep? He asked. A little. That helps. I looked at the guest book. My entry was still there. Daniel Mercer. October 18th, room 12. Below it, in neat handwriting, someone had written, slept after 3:33. Did not answer. Still has questions. I looked at Harlan. Did you write that? Not all of it. Who did? He turned the book slightly toward himself. The motel keeps good records. I want to leave. Yes. Will the road let me? Harlan looked out the window at the pale morning. It might. That's not an answer. It is the most honest one. I took a breath. What is this place? He touched the edge of the guest book with 2 fingers. A place between roads. That means nothing. It means most people arrive when they are too tired to keep going and too proud to stop earlier. I did not say anything. He continued, the motel finds people who need a room. Sometimes that is all it gives them. And other times? He looked at the wall of keys. Other times, people leave something behind. What did I leave? Harlan turned a page in the guest book. On the next page, there were older entries, names, dates, rooms, notes. He pointed to one line. Daniel Mercer, October 18th, room 12. But it was not my entry. The ink was faded. The page was worn. The handwriting was not mine. Beside the name was a note. Arrived after midnight. Asked about the bridge. Left before learning the rule. The date was 10 years old. I felt cold all over. That is not me, I said. No. I've never been here. Harlan looked at me kindly. Most guests say that. I would remember. Would you? I stepped back from the counter. My phone buzzed in my pocket. The sound made me flinch. It was a call from my sister. I answered before thinking. Hey, I said. There was static. Then my sister's voice, thin and far away. Daniel? Yes, I'm here. A pause. Where? At a motel. I'm fine. I got caught in the rain. Another pause. Then she said, What rain? I looked out the office window. The parking lot was wet. Water dripped from the roof. Clouds hung low over the trees. It rained all night, I said. Daniel? She said slowly. It hasn't rained here in 2 weeks. The line crackled. Behind her voice, I heard something else. A soft mechanical ring, like a motel office bell. Then the call ended. I lowered the phone. Harlan was watching me. Not with surprise, with patience. I need to go, I said. He nodded. You have paid. I never gave you a card. The room was covered. By who? Harlan closed the guest book. By the guest who left it open. I did not ask what that meant. I walked out of the office into the gray morning. My car unlocked when I pressed the button. The engine started. The road beyond the motel looked wet and ordinary. Before I pulled out, I checked the passenger seat. No motel key, no note, only my bag. I drove slowly past the sign. In daylight, it looked dead. The Last Light Motel. No neon, no glow, no flicker. Just red letters on a whiteboard, faded by weather. I turned onto the road. For 10 minutes, I drove through trees. Then I saw the bridge. The river moved below it, brown and swollen from rain. There was no reason for the sight of an ordinary bridge to make me whisper thank you. But it did. I crossed it. On the other side, my phone signal returned fully. Messages came in, emails, missed calls, a weather alert from the night before. Heavy rain expected along Route 17. So it had rained. At least somewhere. At least enough. I drove until I reached a gas station with bright lights and a woman behind the counter reading a magazine. I parked, went inside, and bought coffee I did not want. The woman at the counter glanced at me. Rough night? She asked. I almost laughed. Something like that. She looked past me, out at my car. Then she said, You come from north? Yes. Storm was bad up there. I nodded. There a motel on that road? I asked. She stopped turning the page of her magazine. What motel? The Last Light. Her face changed. Not much, only a little. She looked down at the counter. People still call it that. What do you mean? She did not answer right away. Then she said, there used to be a place up there. Burned down before I was born. I held the coffee with both hands. When? She shrugged. 70s, maybe. My dad told stories. Drivers saw the sign in bad weather. Said there was a man at the desk. Old nonsense. I looked out the window toward the road. My car sat under the gas station lights, wet and real. Did it have 12 rooms? I asked. The woman looked at me. 13, she said. Then she went back to her magazine. 8 the key. I did not tell anyone. That is not entirely true. I started to tell my sister when I got home. She came over that evening with soup and a look on her face, like she had already decided I had scared myself on a bad drive. I began with the rain, then the road, then the motel sign. She listened quietly, but when I got to the part about the phone call, she touched my hand and said, "You were exhausted." She was not dismissive. That made it worse. She was gentle, concerned, willing to believe I had experienced something, but not that the something had been real. So I stopped. I told her she was probably right. People accept stories better when you help them dismiss them. For a few days, I lived normally. I worked. I answered emails. I paid bills. I slept poorly. I checked the weather too often. At night, when rain tapped the windows of my apartment, I turned on lights in every room. I kept my phone charged. I avoided looking into mirrors after midnight. The note was gone. I knew I had put it in my jacket pocket before leaving room 12. I remembered the feel of the folded paper. I remembered packing it with the intention of showing someone, even if they laughed. But when I got home, the pocket was empty. The motel key was gone too. That should have relieved me. Instead, it made everything feel unfinished. A week passed. Then 2. The memory softened in some places and sharpened in others. That is what memories do when you do not know where to put them. They become less like a line of events and more like rooms you avoid entering. I stopped driving at night. I stopped using Route 17. I told myself that was reasonable. Then, on the first Sunday of November, I found the key. It was on my kitchen table. I had been making coffee. Morning light came through the window. The city outside was awake. A bus sighed at the curb. Someone laughed on the sidewalk below. And there it was, an old brass key with a worn tag. Room 12. It sat beside my mail, as if I had dropped it there the night before. I did not touch it for a long time. Then I took a dish towel, wrapped the key in it, and put it in a drawer. I went to work. When I came home, the drawer was open. The towel was still inside. The key was back on the table. Beside it was a small square of guestbook paper. One line. You left before checkout. I did not sleep that night. At 2:14 a.m., my apartment phone rang. I did not own an apartment phone. The sound came from my kitchen. Soft, mechanical, old. One ring, then another. I sat on the couch, staring toward the dark doorway. The phone rang a third time, then stopped. In the morning, the key was gone. So was the note. For 3 months, nothing happened. Winter came slowly. Rain turned to cold fog. The city put up holiday lights. People hurried under umbrellas and bought gifts in bright stores while I carried a quiet motel room in the back of my mind. Then my car began to smell like old coffee. Not fresh coffee, not spilled coffee. The smell of a pot left too long on a motel warmer. I had the car cleaned. The smell returned. Sometimes, when I started the engine, the radio gave a burst of static before connecting to my phone. Under the static, very faintly, I thought I could hear pages turning. Once, at a red light, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw the vacancy sign reflected behind me. I turned around. There was only traffic. After that, I stopped using the rearview mirror at night. That is dangerous. I know. But fear makes its own kind of danger feel practical. In February, I received an envelope with no stamp. It was waiting in my mailbox between an electric bill and a grocery flyer. Inside was one page. Not old paper this time. New paper. Clean white office paper. At the top, typed in plain black letters, the Last Light Motel reminder of balance below that. Guest, Daniel Mercer Room, 12, date of stay, October 18th, balance, due, 1 story at the bottom, handwritten in blue ink. Leave it in the guestbook when you return. I read it once, then again. Then I burned it in the sink. The smoke smelled like rain. That night, I dreamed of the motel office. Not the room, not the door, not the thing that knocked. Only the office, the warm lamp, the wall of keys, the coffee pot, the guestbook open on the counter. Harlan stood behind it. He did not speak. He turned the book toward me. The blank line under my name waited. When I woke, my bedroom window was fogged from the inside. Someone had drawn a circle in it with one finger. 9. The return. I lasted until April. That is longer than some people would have lasted. Shorter than others. By then, I understood that not returning was not the same as being free. The motel had no need to chase me. It could wait in small things. The smell of coffee, the sound of rain, a line of static, a key that appeared and vanished. A road sign glimpsed too quickly from the corner of my eye. It waited politely. Like Harlan, I decided to return on a clear morning. No rain, no night, no exhaustion. I took Route 17 at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. I brought a paper map, a full tank of gas, 2 bottles of water, and a notebook. I told my sister I was driving north for work. That was a lie. I am not proud of it, but I did not know how to tell the truth in a way that would not make her take my keys. The road looked normal. Fields, trees, a small church, a closed produce stand, the old Lumbertown sign, the river bridge. I crossed the bridge twice, north, then south. Nothing happened. No motel, no sign, no red glow. I drove the route again. Still nothing. By late afternoon, I felt foolish. By evening, I felt angry. At 8:30 p.m., I parked at the gas station where the woman had told me the motel burned down. A different clerk was working. A young man with headphones around his neck. He had never heard of the Last Light. I bought coffee and sat in my car. The sky darkened. No rain. At 10:17, clouds moved over the moon. At 11:02, the first drops hit the windshield. I sat up. The rain was light at first, then steady. The road beyond the gas station shone under the lights. My phone showed full signal. The map showed Route 17. The weather app said no rain expected. I started the car. I drove north. The bridge should have been 6 minutes away. At 11:41, I had not reached it. The trees pressed close on both sides. The radio hissed. My headlights picked out the yellow lines and the rain and nothing else. At 11:58, the red blur appeared ahead. I did not feel surprised. That scared me more than surprise would have. The Last Light Motel. Vacancy. The sign flickered once, then held steady. The parking lot was almost empty. Only the station wagon was there. No plates, roof rack, fogged windows. I pulled into the same space under the buzzing lamp. My hands were calm, too calm. The office light was on. Harlan stood behind the counter, looking down at the guest book. I went inside. The bell rang softly. Harlan looked up. "Evening, Mr. Mercer." I came back. He nodded. "Most balances settle that way." I placed my notebook on the counter. "You said I owed a story." I did not say it. The motel did. That is different. I looked at the guest book. It was open to a blank page. At the top, someone had written, "The guest who left before checkout below." That was a date. Tonight's date. No name, no room number. Harlan placed a pen beside the book. "Write what you remember," he said. "What happens if I do?" "That depends on what you leave out." "What happens if I do not?" He looked toward the window. The rain reflected red on the glass. "Then the room may keep asking." I picked up the pen. It was heavier than it looked. "Where is room 12?" I asked. "At the far end." "I know. I mean, what is it?" Harlan considered that. "A place that does not like unfinished things." "And room 13? His expression did not change, but the office felt quieter. "Room 13 is for stories that do not know where else to go." I looked at the guest book page. The blank lines seemed too white. "I heard a woman in the wall," I said. "Yes." "Is she still here?" Harlan turned his head slightly, as if listening to the building. "Tonight, she is resting." "Can people leave?" "People leave all the time." "That is not what I asked." "No." I felt tired suddenly. Not sleeping. Worn. The kind of tired that lives behind your eyes and waits for you to stop pretending. "What do I write?" I asked. "The truth," Harlan said. But slowly. "The motel prefers a calm hand." I almost laughed. Of course it did. So I wrote. I wrote about the road after midnight, the rain, the sign, the office, the key, the note, the call, the knocking, the voice that used my name, the woman in the wall, the morning, the bridge, the gas station, the key on my kitchen table. I wrote for a long time. The rain fell steadily behind me. Harlan moved once to refill the coffee pot, but otherwise left me alone. The old radio whispered static. A truck passed outside and shook the window. As I wrote, I noticed other sounds. Footsteps on the walkway. A shower turning on somewhere. A drawer opening. A television with no channel. A woman humming through a wall. The motel was awake, but not angry. It felt like a house listening to a bedtime story. When I finished, my hand ached. The guest book had taken 11 pages. I set down the pen. Harlan looked at the pages, but did not read them in front of me. "Is that enough?" I asked. "For tonight." "For tonight." Stories settled slowly. I looked at the wall of keys. Room 12 was missing. Room 13 had no hook. "Do I have to stay?" "You came in the rain," Harlan said. "It would be unkind to send you back out." "That sounds like a threat." "It is hospitality." He took a key from beneath the counter. "Room 8, not 12. He placed it in front of me. "A quieter room," he said. I looked at the tag. "Why?" "You listened last time." "To who?" "The wall." I picked up the key. "What if someone knocks?" Harlan smiled faintly. "Then you already know how to be rude?" I almost thanked him. That bothered me. Instead, I took the key and went back out into the rain. 10 room 8. Room 8 was smaller than room 12. The bed was narrower. The lamp was dimmer. The bathroom fan hummed even when the switch was off. But the room felt easier. Not safe. No room at the Last Light felt safe, but easier. The window faced the parking lot. The station wagon still sat near the office, its fogged windows glowing faintly from the side. The vending machine was farther away now, a blue-white rectangle through the rain. On the table was a fresh sheet of paper. I almost did not pick it up. When I did, it had only one line. Sleep while the motel reads. That was almost comforting. I set the note down. Then the phone rang. Once. I looked at it. It did not ring again. After a moment, I lifted the receiver. Harlan's voice came through. Room all right? Yes. Good. A pause. Then he said, You may hear some pages tonight. Pages. The book has been waiting for your version. I sat on the bed. What happens to the other versions? The ones you did not write? Yes. They stay in the rooms. I closed my eyes. That made too much sense. Every fear I had refused to name. Every detail I had tried to forget. Every version of the night where I opened the door. Every version where I did not cross the bridge. Every version where the woman in the wall stopped talking. Rooms. Waiting. Can writing them down let them leave? I asked. Sometimes. Can it let me leave? That is also sometimes. The line hummed. Harlan, I said, were you ever a guest? For the first time, he did not answer right away. Then he said, Everyone here was tired once. The call ended. I put down the receiver. The rain outside deepened. I lay on the bed with the lamp on. I thought I would not sleep. Then I heard pages turning. Not in the room. Not exactly. The sound came from the walls, from the ceiling, from under the floor. Soft paper, slow movement, a large book being read by careful hands. At first, it made me tense. Then, strangely, it soothed me. The motel was reading. The room was warm. The blanket was heavy. The rain was steady. For the first time in months, I slept without dreaming. When I woke, the clock read 2:58 a.m. The room was dark, except for the neon glow. Someone was sitting in the chair by the window. I did not move. The person was small, wrapped in a coat, head bowed. At first, I thought it was a child. Then I saw gray hair falling across the collar. An old woman. She sat very still, hands folded around a room key. Do you know the way out? She asked. Her voice was thin. I swallowed. No. She nodded as if that was the answer she expected. I used to, she said, before the highway moved. Rain slid down the window behind her. What room are you in? I asked. She looked at the key in her hands. Depends on the night. I sat up slowly. Are you real? She smiled. It was a kind smile. Not in a way that helps. The old woman looked toward the door. If the clerk gives you coffee in the morning, drink only half. Why? So you remember which half of you left. I did not know what to say. She stood with some effort. The chair did not creak. Her feet made no sound on the carpet. At the door, she paused. You wrote your story, she said. That was good. Will it help? It helped me remember mine. Then she opened the door. The chain lock was still on. The door did not open wide enough for her to pass through, but she passed through it anyway, slowly, as if moving through heavy rain. When she was gone, the room seemed warmer. I checked the clock. 3:17. No one knocked. That felt like mercy. 11. The last page. In the morning, Harlan offered coffee. I drank half. He noticed. His mouth moved in something that might have been a smile. Good advice travels, he said. The guestbook lay closed on the counter. It looked larger than before. Or maybe I simply understood it better. Can I see what I wrote? I asked. Harlan placed his hand on the cover. Not yet. Why? Because it is still deciding what you meant. That sounds like a thing a person does. The book learned from people. Outside, the rain had stopped. A bright gray sky hung over the motel. The road beyond the sign looked wet and passable. The station wagon was gone. My car was still there. I want to leave, I said. Harlan nodded. Then leave. That's it? That is often the hardest part. I waited for a warning. He gave none. So I walked to the door. Before I stepped outside, he said, Mr. Mercer. I looked back. If you find the key again, do not hide it. What should I do? Put it somewhere comfortable. That's all. Keys get lonely in drawers. I stared at him. He looked completely serious. I left without answering. The road let me go. I crossed the bridge. I reached the gas station. I drove home in daylight. For several days, nothing strange happened. Then I found the key on my nightstand. Room 8, not 12. Beside it was a folded page. I opened it. The handwriting was mine. Only one sentence. The room is ready when the rain is. I did not hide the key. I put it in a small dish by the door where I kept ordinary things. Keys, coins, receipts, a loose button, room 8. After that, the apartment felt calmer. At night, when rain came, I sometimes heard the motel. Not clearly, not loudly. Only the softest sounds. A bell, a page, a sign humming, a voice saying good evening to someone far away. I began writing down what I heard. Not because I wanted to, because the stories came easier when I did. At first, they were fragments. A trucker who stopped for coffee and found his own name written on every mug. A woman who checked into room 5 with a baby monitor that picked up a lullaby from 1978. A night clerk at a gas station who sold directions to towns that no longer existed. A man in a brown coat who asked every guest the same question. Which road brought you here? A couple who slept through the knocking and woke up 20 years older, still holding hands. The stories were quiet, simple, slow. They came with rain. I would wake at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock a.m., sit at the kitchen table, and write until the sound faded. Sometimes I remembered writing. Sometimes I found pages in the morning and read them like someone else had left them for me. One night, I wrote the woman in the wall's name, Mara Ellison. The name sat on the page with such weight that I knew it was true. The next time I heard rain, her voice came through my kitchen wall. Thank you, she said. I did not speak. I was afraid that if I did, she would disappear. But she continued. I remembered my room. Which one? I whispered. 6. Can we leave now? A long pause. I can sleep. That was not the same thing. But it was not nothing. Months passed that way. I did not return to the motel. Not physically. But I wrote for it, or with it, or against it. I still do not know. Every story I wrote ended up with the same feeling. A person alone at night. A road made strange by rain. A room that knew a little too much. And a choice to be quiet instead of brave. That is what the Last Light Motel teaches. Not courage, not exactly. It teaches the usefulness of not answering every knock. It teaches that some doors become stronger when ignored. It teaches that fear does not always need to be fought. Sometimes it only needs to be given a blanket, a lamp, a soft voice, and a place to sit until morning. 12. The last check-in. The last time I went to the Last Light Motel, I did not drive. I woke there. That is the simplest way to say it. I fell asleep in my apartment during a storm. Room 8, key in the dish by the door. Rain on the windows, notebook open on my chest. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the bed in room 8. The lamp was on. The rain was steady. My notebook was on the table. I was not afraid at first. I was too familiar with the room. That scared me later. On the table, beside the notebook, was a cup of coffee, half full. A note lay under it. You know better now. I sat up. The door was unlocked. Outside, the motel walkway glowed yellow. Rain fell beyond the roof edge. The parking lot was full. Every space had a car. Old cars, new cars, trucks, a motorcycle under a tarp, a family van, a taxi with no driver. The office light was on. I put on my shoes and walked there. As I passed the rooms, I heard voices. Not loud, not frightening. Soft voices telling stories. From room 2, a man described a road lined with white mailboxes. From room 4, a child counted the seconds between lightning and thunder. From room 6, Mara spoke calmly about a mother's house and the long drive home. From room 10, someone laughed in their sleep. From room 12, my own voice said, I left before checkout. I stopped outside room 12. The door was closed. The number looked dull under the rain. I touched the key in my pocket. Room 8, not 12. From inside room 12, my voice continued. The road brought me back because I thought leaving was the same as finishing. I stepped away. The office bell rang before I opened the door. Harlan stood behind the counter. The guest book was open. You are late, he said. I was sleeping. That is no excuse here. But he said it kindly. I looked at the book. This time, the title at the top of the page was, The Guest Book that wrote back below it were many lines in my handwriting. Not all mine from one night. Some were older. Some looked newer than the page itself. Some were words I remembered writing in my apartment. Some were words I had only thought. At the bottom, there was a blank space. Harlan placed the pen beside it. What am I signing? I asked. Not signing, he said. Finishing. I picked up the pen. My hand did not shake. What happens when I finish? The story gets a room. And me? Harlan looked toward the window. The rain moved over the glass. You get to choose whether to stay in it. I looked at him. Did you choose? A long time ago. Do you regret it? He considered this carefully. No, he said, but I do miss mornings. That answer felt more honest than anything else he had said. I looked back at the guest book. The blank space waited. What should I write? The part you have avoided. I knew what he meant. I had written about the motel, the road, the key, the knocking, the voices, the strange kindness of the place. I had not written the reason I was on Route 17 that night. Not fully. I had said work ran late. I had said I was tired. I had said I was driving home. All true, not complete. The truth was that I had been avoiding my mother's house. She had died 3 weeks before that night. I had spent those weeks handling forms, calls, boxes, relatives, bills, the strange little tasks that arrive when a person leaves the world. I had cleaned out her kitchen. I had thrown away food from her refrigerator. I had taken her coat from the hook by the door and folded it into a bag. Then I had driven away too late because I did not want to sleep in her house. I had told myself I was being practical. I had told myself there was work in the morning. But the truth was simpler. Her house was quiet, and I did not know how to be inside quiet without her. So I drove into the rain, too tired to keep going, Too proud to stop earlier. A place between roads. I wrote that. Slowly. I wrote about the house, the coat, the empty kitchen. The way grief can make any room feel haunted. The way I had mistaken motion for escape. As I wrote, the motel sound softened. The rain stayed, but it became gentler. The radio static lowered. The lights hummed. When I finished, the guestbook page was full. Harlan read the last line. Then he closed the book. "That will do," he said. The office felt very still. "Can I go home?" I asked. "Yes." "Will the motel follow?" He touched the closed guestbook. "Not in the same way." I looked at the wall of keys. Room 8 hung in its place. Room 12 hung beside it. There was still no room 13. "What about the others?" I asked. "The others are writing." "All of them?" "Eventually." Outside, an engine started. Then another. I looked through the window and saw headlights turn on in the parking lot, one by one. Not all of them, but some. Mara stood near the station wagon. She looked younger than I expected, or maybe less tired. She turned toward the office and lifted one hand. I lifted mine. Then she got into the station wagon. This time, it had plates. The car rolled out of the lot and turned toward the road. The rain swallowed its taillights. Harlan opened a drawer and took out a small envelope. He handed it to me. "For the road." Inside was my car key, not the motel key, my own. I had not noticed it was missing. "Thank you," I said. Harlan nodded. "Drive slowly." The office bell rang when I stepped outside. The rain touched my face gently. My car was parked under the buzzing lamp. The driver's door opened. The engine started. The clock read 5:11 a.m. Not night, not morning. The hour in between. I drove past the sign. The Last Light Motel. Vacancy. As I reached the road, the neon changed. For 1 second, just one, the sign did not say vacancy. It said, "Good night." Then it flickered back. I turned left. The road did not loop. The bridge appeared before sunrise. When I crossed it, the rain stopped slowly, not all at once. It faded into mist, then into small drops, then into nothing. The sky ahead became pale. I drove home. This time, I slept in my apartment without lights on. 13. If you find the sign, I still hear rain. Of course I do. Everyone hears rain. But sometimes, when the night is late and the world is quiet, I hear something under it. A bell. A page. A low neon hum. The room 8 key has not returned. Neither has room 12. I have checked the dish by the door many times. Only ordinary keys are there now. Apartment, car, mailbox. That should be the end. But stories do not end the way roads do. They do not simply arrive somewhere and stop. They settle. They find corners. They wait for weather. So I am writing this down as clearly as I can. If you are listening to this while the rain touches your window, and if you are tired in a way sleep does not fully fix, there are a few things you should know. The Last Light Motel may not look frightening when you find it. That is part of its nature. It will look warm. It will look quiet. It will look like the only reasonable place to stop. The clerk may be named Harlan, or he may not. The guest book will be open. The coffee will be old. The keys will be colder than they should be. If you check in, use your real name. That matters. If you find a note in your room, read it once. Then put it somewhere you can see it. If the phone rings first, you may answer. If it does not, let it rest. If someone knocks, remember that politeness is not a law. If the rain stops all at once, Count to 10 before breathing. If you hear a voice in the wall, be kind to it. But do not promise what you cannot give. If the clerk asks what name you checked in under, tell the truth. If he asks what name you will check out under, stay quiet. And if the road brings you back, do not assume that means you failed. Some places are not traps in the simple way. Some places are rooms built around unfinished things, a grief, a fear, a memory, a story you refuse to tell. The motel does not always keep people. Sometimes it only waits until they stop running. I do not know what would have happened if I had opened the door at 3:17. I do not know what room 13 looks like. I do not know whether Harlan was kind or only patient in the way old places are patient. But I know this. There are worse things than spending a night in a room that will not let you lie to yourself. There are worse sounds than rain. There are worse voices than one in the dark saying, "You can close your eyes now. The room is ready." For a while after that, there is only rain again. It falls on the roof. It taps against the windows. It runs down the glass in thin, crooked lines. The vacancy sign hums softly in the distance. A page turns. A key settles on its hook. And somewhere, far out on the wet highway, another tired driver sees a red light through the rain. They slow down. They read the sign. The Last Light Motel. Vacancy. They tell themselves they only need one night. And inside the office, under a warm brass lamp, the guest book opens to a blank page.